So Islam is an identity not only of a religion, but the identity of yourself as a citizen abiding. So it's an all-encompassing identity. Your Islam links with links with your identity as a citizen of that state and looking after the state of the state as well. So when someone becomes a renegade and so on, okay, it's okay if someone leaves and that's it, right? But what happens is they try to influence others and say this is fault, create a lot of disorder in society and also have a lot of problems they create. Okay? So this is seen as treason to the state. If you look at the idea of treason, in many countries, treasons are a capital punishment. You would wonder why. Why would, for example, a member of an MI6 intelligence, if they were selling their information to, say, the Iranians, for example, they will be hanged or lethal injection or they will be put to death for just giving away their information. Why? Because it's dealing with the security of the state. It's not the state is so vulnerable, but it will have some detrimental effect on the interest of the state. So that's why some scholars would say treason is the main reason linked with punishing those individuals who commit this crime of apostasy, of being a renegade and creating havoc and disorder in the society. But in a society like now here, people leave left, right and center. They become Muslim one day and become a non-Muslim one day. Who cares? No one cares. No one gives a care. So that people will hunt you down and say, look, I'm going to find you and I'm going to take your life. It doesn't happen like that. Okay? What people don't realize this is the double standards and hypocrisy again from people of the scripture. Apostasy or changing your religion, if you go to the Judeo-Christian religion, what is the penalty? Death. But they don't talk about it. They don't talk about it. It's punishable by death if you change your religion. If you worship anything other than God of Jewish people or the Christian people, it's punishable by death. But they won't mention it. They'll hide away from it. Okay? So that's another hypocrisy. So if someone is a liberal and they question this is another issue. So as a Muslim, you might find questions coming like this to you from different forms, from people who call themselves, ultra-liberalists, humanists, atheists, and so on. They have a whole world and whole ideology of themselves. They live by their ideology. It's an ideological clash. Okay? It's an ideological clash because your ideology will drive you to act and behave the way you behave and implement laws in society the way you want. Okay? So those people who drink Friday night, Saturday night, because that's their life, and they find that this country wants to ban alcohol, do you think the country will be able to? Because these people will uprise and create havoc in society. No, you can't take this away from us. We love to drink. This is our life. This is our bread and butter. This is our, how it makes us happy. And you can't do that. They will go against it and overthrow the government. Okay? They won't be able to pass this law because that's how they want. That's their ideological interests. But Islam says it differently about alcohol, for example. How alcohol is the handiworks of Satan. Alcohol defocuses your mind and it totally takes you out of your control, and then you do all these evil things, bad things, and you disrupt the order of the society. You create crimes which, creates instability in society, insecurity in society. I'm sure you know the most violent crimes that happens in UK is under the influence of alcohol. They know it all, but it's their life. They don't want to give it up. Yeah? That's the problem. That's the outlook that we have, differences of outlook in ideology that makes us live our life in different ways. So in Islam, we would want to live our life according to God's laws. Okay? So if God's laws was to be implemented in Pakistan, who are they to tell us, no, you can't have your law? If we want it, this is our own choice. You can't just say, no, you can't have it. We want you to have democracy. Why are you imposing your way of life on us? We're not imposing our way of life on you. If you want to live in our society as a non-Muslim citizen, of course you can, in an Islamic state, in an Islamic government, in an Islamic country, if it exists. You can live as a non-Muslim society, and your rights, your life, your honor, your dignity, your property, all will be protected. Like it was, you will be a protected citizen. And anyone who harms the protected citizens of an Islamic state, Allah and His Messenger will require it of them. This is how harsh the penalty would be from someone who harms a protected citizen. Yeah? So we're talking about ideological clash. So no wonder there is the reality of the clash of civilization. We're talking about clash of ideologies. And that is why the West is so much against Islam, because of its ideology. Not because Muslims are somehow, of a different culture. It's nothing to do with culture. We have different cultures within our Muslim societies. A culture in Pakistan is different from culture in Uganda, for example, or Nigeria, or in Malaysia. We live differently with different cultural understanding. But what unites us all is Islam, the Islamic ideology, the belief system that we have, that we worship Allah alone, that we worship Allah so that justice can be implemented in this life, and so that we can live our life in peace and following what we are created for. So the idea that you are Malaysian and I am Pakistani will disappear. Why? Because we are one brotherhood or sisterhood, one unity. Yeah? So our unity comes from our belief system. So Western ideology comes from what kind of interest? The interest of what? What is that interest? What is the interest that binds them and unites them? Think about it. The Western ideologies of liberalism, humanism, what is this interest? Interest of common goal of humanity? I mean, when a plane has a problem and it's about to crash, and you think, were there any Britons on the plane? Oh, thank God there were no French. You write in your French newspaper. Look at the racism embedded within you, and you think you are humanist? You ask how many German was on the plane that died. Shouldn't be asking how many people died, regardless of what language, what color, what race they're on, whether they're rich or poor. But that doesn't happen in this kind of mentality.
So it's kind of like people in Syria who who die every single day, but then the France attack in Paris, so many people, there was so much news about the fact that so many people died in Paris, but when millions of people are dying in Syria, no one gives a damn, do they?
Exactly. When millions of people are dying of starvation and you waste all your food, like you go to a restaurant, you order all this food, you don't like it, throw it away. And people die, they're Africans, awkward people, whatever. That's the mentality some people have. Subhanallah, can you imagine? Human beings, they don't have water to drink. They travel miles and miles to a place where they can find water. And you have a bath, you put your tap on, and then you have a shower there hours and hours, and you just wake up, oh, I just had a nap, I just realize you waste so much water. Is this how you think you're actually a humanist? You have compassion of human beings? Of course not. Islam tells us how to be human. Yes. It tells us our neighbors have a right over us, even though they're non-Muslims. Prophet Muhammad said, you are not a believer. You are not a believer. You are not a believer when you go full in your stomach, fully fed, and your neighbor is starving. Dies of starvation. Yeah? Sorry. Yeah. I'm just highlighting this part. Your neighbor. So Islam, puts so much importance in the welfare of the human being living collectively in a society. Why do we give charity? Is it because, why? Why we are required to give zakat? 2.5% of our surplus wealth. It's because it is not our wealth. The right of ownership is actually of the poor people on our wealth. They have the right on our wealth. Okay? This is how Islam already given them this means, because they are poor. So the people have the right on our money. When we provide to them, it purifies our wealth and it helps them so that they don't remain poor. If the system was implemented properly, you won't find a lot of poor people. At one point, like when Khalif Abdul Aziz, if I'm not mistaken, it was difficult for people to give, this kind of zakat too. because the system was implemented properly. So when we live in an Islamic society, even the plants and the animals have rights. You can just go and pluck leaves and flowers from here and there, or uproot a tree like this. You can't destroy, crops and things like this. Even if you go to a war, you are strictly forbidden to destroy these live crops. Animals, we don't take animals just for the game, right? Go and hunt foxes and rabbits and so on. You can't take like this. We only take life with the permission of God when we are going to eat them because God has provided us provisions from them, food out of these things, out of the animals of the land or of the seas. Yeah? We take these life with the permission of God. We say, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. We take their life away with the permission of Allah. Then it becomes permissible, halal for us to take. But when we take the lives of, the cattle, for example, slaughter them, we have to make sure we do it in a way which is less painful for them. We don't do it in front of other animals because they can feel the pain of each other. You see how they react. We're not allowed to do that. And when you have to take, we don't just put them in a legal, buzz them with a shock and then it fries their brain and, they feel the pain. No. With a very sharp knife, cut the jugular vein of an animal, they don't even feel anything. Because when you have a very sharp cut, do you feel the pain instantly, immediately? You don't. You realize later, I've got a cut. Yeah? Because when you have a sharp cut like this, you don't feel it. So they don't feel the pain because, and when all the blood is draining from their brains, yeah, because that's what happens when you cut the jugular vein of a cattle, for example, then they don't feel the pain. But if you shock them and so on, they feel the pain and they go to convulsion for quite some time. Okay? So yes, Islamic method of slaughter is humane more than shocking them and so on and so forth. Regardless of what people think, regardless of what people claim the scientific studies have done and so on. No, we treat them in a way which is just and comfortable and kind to them. So you can't be cruel to animal. I mean, look at this. One prostitute woman. This is a story that is narrated in our literature. A prostitute woman who's committing sins, right? She's committing so bad sin. She saw a dog very thirsty. Dog's dying of thirst. She took one of her shoes maybe or something, went into the well, got some water and let the dog drink. And we are told, the story is authentic, that because of that action, she's going to go to paradise. Being merciful to Allah's creation, a dog who's been thirsty and dying of starvation. This is how Islam treats people around you. We are told not to corrupt the land and the sea, but people are doing it left, right and center. We can't do this. We have to look after our environment. We have to look after our own self, look after our family, look after the people, look after the environment, look after this world that we're living in. Because we are placed in this world to be Khalifa, a vicegerent, to be in the charge of affairs, to look after it. Look after it. If we don't dispose of our duty, then we'll be accountable for it. So that means Islam is a religion of what? Justice, mercy, kindness. Yeah? So regardless of what people think that Islam and Islamism and fundamentalism is because they misunderstand certain aspects of the Sharia, certain aspects of Islamic law. So when you say, look, according to Sharia, I am not allowed to put my old parents into old people's home. I have to look after them. Clean them, feed them, and so on and so forth. I can't just leave them in an old people's home like that. They don't jump around and say, Sharia, how harsh the Sharia is. They remain silent. Suddenly it's like the penny drops. Oh, is that Sharia also? I didn't realize that was Sharia. Yes, this is also Islamic law, where you treat your parents like this. We're not even allowed to say oof to our parents. This is how you're supposed to be. But look at the rage the people have against their fathers and mothers in this society now. They don't care about their mom and dad and how arrogant they behave against their mom and dad and so on. But Islam says, no, you're not even supposed to say oof to them. Be kind and merciful to them. Lower your wings of humility and mercy. Yeah? Because they looked after you when you were so young, when you were vulnerable. You couldn't even clean yourself. You couldn't even feed yourself. And your mom and your dad fed you, clothed you, cleansed you, and you then say, okay, who are you? I'll send you a Christmas card if I remember. Subhanallah, how unjust this is. رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِ صَغِيرًا. This is what we pray, oh Allah. رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا, have mercy on us. كَمَا رَبَّيَانِ صَغِيرًا. How, they've been merciful to us. Be merciful to them as they were merciful to us. This is how we should treat our parents. How about other people treating other people? Just because someone is in a different religion, different ideology, it doesn't mean you treat them unwell. No, you have to be just to them. In the Quran, Allah says clearly, stand firm in justice and truth. Be a witness. Even if it against you, against your own self, that is, against your own people, your own family, against your own relatives. Speak the truth, be firm in justice. So Islam doesn't say, oh, you know what, someone of a family member has committed a crime, I am the one who's judge, let him get away with it. No, there's not such favoritism or nepotism in Islam. Islam means justice for all. The Prophet ﷺ said, even if Fatima, his daughter, if she were to steal, of course she would not steal, if she were to steal, let her hands be cut off, meaning let her have the punishment. No nepotism, no favoritism. It's open for everyone. That is why our caliphs in early times, they would go in plain clothes and look around how silly people are doing, how people are doing, whether justice has been implemented in the society or not, whether people have been looked after or not. Okay, so when in the very early times, a story about historical narration, Jerusalem fell to the hands of the Muslims, and now those people, the Christians, are going to give the key to Masjid al-Aqsa, the key to Jerusalem, to the Muslim leaders, right? They said, we want the Khalif to come, your leader to come, and we will hand it over to them. Now, what was the Khalif then? How was he living? What was his status? The whole world at that time, around this world we're talking about, trembled. Jerusalem fell, of course, and this was the might of the Islamic state at that time under this Khalif. But how was he living? Did he have a palace with gold and emeralds and ruby and all this, servants serving him something like this? Did he say, okay, no, let's go like whole people with me, my ministers and my, other people, delegates, a whole bunch that people now go, like a whole plane, and they go with this, and then say, okay, I am this. There was one animal of riding, whether it's a camel or a horse, and one of the individuals that will look after him, a working person. So they both went. How did they went? He went riding it, but did he just continue riding it throughout from his place to Jerusalem? No. They were riding in turns. He's allowing his person under him, and working individual, to ride, and while he is tying this animal. That is the justice and mercy he was showing. This is how he was. Do you expect these kind of people now, let me drive, you know what, I know you're my chauffeur, okay, you've been driving for so long time, you must be tired, let me drive. Does that happen with our kings and leaders and queens and prime ministers? It doesn't happen. So, at the time when he's about to reach the gate of Jerusalem, it was the time to get on the animal for the Khalif. Now, did the Khalif say, no, sorry, it was a turn for the working person, right? Did the Khalif say, no, you stand on the ground, pull the animal, and I get on because they need to know I am in charge? Even so, he let his worker to go and ride, and when he came to the city, they thought it was him. But when this man pointed out, no, your Khalif, our leader, is the one who's standing and pulling the animal, that's him. Imagine the reaction that people had. They realized this is what we're talking about, a world leader who thinks justice, who thinks compassion, who thinks mercy, who thinks kindness. That is the example what we are going to present to you about Islam, how Islam molded and changed the society and changed the individual. And that is what we're trying to achieve. That is what we're trying to achieve as Muslims, to be like the first few generations of Muslims, the best of generations, as the Prophet ﷺ said. Okay? People don't like the idea, because if we become like this, they will have difficulty with their interests. Okay? Because if Muslims are becoming like this, totally truthful, totally honest, and so on, it's not gonna help them with their interest in their workplaces and so on and so on. You know how many times in the workplaces he says, your boss tells me, when someone rings, tell them I'm not here. They're asking you to tell a lie. SubhanAllah. So no wonder Islam, when this was implemented, people saw this Islam and they said, we want to be like you. What made you like this? When people, merchants, Muslim merchants, they went and traveled to Indonesia and Malaysia, there wasn't armies that went there. They were doing their merchandise. They were doing their buying and selling. And they were living there. People saw them and they said, how can you be like this? Upright person, just person, kind person. You know, we want a noble person. We want to be like you. It's because Islam has taught us like this to be. And we love Islam. We want to be like this. And this is our identity as Muslims. And that's why the whole countries like this became Muslim. This is what we want. People should see Islam from our own actions. Own actions. That when they see us, they know that this is what Islam, this is what we are talking about. Unfortunately, they don't see. That's the problem. So we are inviting people to see the teaching of Islam. See the teaching of Islam when it comes to teaching of God, Allah, about His messengers, about the life hereafter, about paradise and about hellfire. And if that makes sense to you, accept it. Okay? Because the successful one is the one who has saved himself from the hellfire. That is how we should measure success. Man zuhziha 'anil nar. The one who's saved himself even by a little from the hellfire. Faqad faz. You know, he has been successful. This is what should be measured for success, not how the society progresses and creates atom bombs and hydrogen bombs and nuclear bombs and destroys everything. That's not progress. Progressing and success should be how you're living your life in this life, so that in the hereafter you are successful in going to heaven and paradise and saving yourself in heaven.
To come back to justice, there's a point you made about like everything's just. So for example, if the Prophet Muhammad made some sort of a very crime that a crime that punishable by death, would that happen? Because so let's say if the Prophet Muhammad he done a crime that's let's say in law would be punishable by death, would that occur? Because knowing he's the most merciful prophet, and so would he get the same prophet as, let's say, a normal pedestrian who's done this sort of crime as well?
Who's committing the crime?
Let's say Prophet Muhammad.
We know we have hypothetical questions like this, but the Prophet Muhammad would never such commit a crime.
Of course.
Okay.
Just asking about the fact that the justice point you're coming up with. So I'm trying to say, would that justice point?
Allah tells us in the Quran, if the Prophet were to, if anyone, including the Prophet, if they were to speak a lie against Allah, Allah will punish them. Allah will cut off his aorta, the jugular vein. One of the surahs. If Muhammad was to speak a lie against Allah, invent a lie against Allah, Allah will cut his jugular vein. He won't just be spared. Okay? No prophet or no messenger would be spared if they did so. But the thing that we know from reality is this: Allah chose those people and He, molded them in a way that they are the best of people, so that people can listen to them. Allah doesn't place His message on individuals who are the worst of creation. He places on them who are the best of creation. Prophets and messengers were the best of creation. They were the most upright, the most noble. Okay, they didn't commit these kind of things that you were saying hypothetically. It's impossible, because this is how God made them and taught them such manners and ways of living and conduct. This is the mercy and justice of Allah. Because to give you an example, you go to a cardiac surgeon, you need a heart operation, and you know this guy is a fraud. He didn't pass his exams. He just bought the certificates from another place, right? And he doesn't even know how to operate. You know that. He's a fraudster. He's making money out of these things. Would you trust him for your life, your heart operation? Would you let him operate on you? Of course you won't. Because you would not trust someone who doesn't know what he's doing. If God is going to place his message on prophets who are lying individuals, who lie, who cheat, and who do all these evil things, who are going to follow them? No one. That is why one of the things we say about the Judeo-Christian scripture, they have lied against our prophets and messengers mentioned in those scriptures. They lied against our prophets and messengers. Those heinous lies they're attributed to Prophet Lot or to Noah or to Moses and so on and so forth is unforgivable. They made such that their daughters of the Prophet were made to sleep with the prophets. Astaghfirullah al-Azim. Because of their theology. They want to make the theology where every human being is weak and fallible and sinful, so you can eventually have someone who is totally free from all of that, and he's going to take your all sins away, and so on and so forth. Right? It's a very complicated issue. This is how the theology is built. We say no. Prophets and messengers are the best that Allah chooses from His creation, so that people can follow, and it makes sense. Otherwise, who's going to follow them? No one. Okay. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
Nice talking to you, brother. May Allah, increase your knowledge, increase your iman, make you stronger and more knowledgeable than every one of us here, and carry on the duty of conveying the message as best as you can, so that people benefit, inshallah.
Thank you.